Welcome into Unbreakable, mental health podcast with Jay Glazer. I'm Jay Glazer. Our guest today is probably the best looking guest we've ever had on. And before we get to him, you'll understand why in a second. But if you're like many people, you may be surprised to learn that 1 in 5 adults in this country experienced mental illness last year. Yet far too many fail to receive the support they need. Carroll and Behavioral Health is doing something about it. They understand that behavioral health is a key part of whole health, delivering compassionate care that treats physical, mental, emotional, and social needs in tandem. Carroll and Behavioral Health, raising the quality of life through empathy and action. And joining me is, man, you guys know him from being an all-pro in the NFL. You may know him from being on TV. I know him from being like my little nephew, my little brother. But he's a 6'7", 340-pound little brother I've known since I think you were 7 years old, something along those lines. The one and only Kyle Long. How are you, brother?
Going on, dude? 7 years old. I'm doing the math. I turned 35 today. So I think that's a lot of years there, Glaze. We've known each other for a while.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
It's awesome. It's awesome. And I'm really glad I get to come on here. I have the opportunity to talk to so many great folks on podcasts, and they want to ask about football and they want to ask about my family and stuff like that. But I'm glad I get to come on a mental health podcast. Not only that, but with somebody that I'm comfortable with. And
I appreciate it.
You've always been there for me, during those great times that we often discuss. But, I'm glad I could be here for you today on the pod, and I look forward to the chat.
Hey, fuck yeah. And here's the thing with us also, man. It's a great thing about our mental health podcast. It's called a mental health podcast, but it doesn't mean I talk about the gray a lot.
Yeah.
But our job is to put people in the blue, right? It's not always just doom and gloom. And I think, for what's always look, obviously your dad's always connected us, but you and I getting each other, there's not a lot of people who understand that we both have this kind of this beast in the box, if you will, that is what drives us so much. And that's what connected you and I from day one, since you were, even, as a little kid on, but, later on in life, I got to help train you for the combine and help you, along the way. And it's just incredible what these relationships do. At the same time, people don't realize this. Kyle moved in with me for me to help train him for the combine. And as a result, his compensation, his pay to me, was that he was my son Sammy's Manny.
Yeah, and I got to use your credit card when we went out to eat. So it was like a great three-way, like NBA type trade. Like they benefit. It was great. I mean, hanging out with Sammy was fun. And I remember when my dad presented me the opportunity to go train with you, and obviously you invited me, and we're probably beating his door down about it for quite some time before he was finally like, all right, you want to go train with Glaze? And he was really like, I don't know that's going to entail, but I trust that he's going to put the right people in front of you. That was, for me, it was an unbreakable moment. I went from junior college, to Oregon for 1 year, and I was a backup guy. And then somebody got hurt. I ended up playing the last 4 or 5 games. I got invited to the Senior Bowl based on, my performance in those games and the Fiesta Bowl that I played in. And then when I went to the Senior Bowl, I wore just enough people out to get on a bigger radar. And then from there, I got to go train with Glaze and get ready for the big show, which everybody knows is the NFL Combine and the NFL Draft. And I just remember being able to brush elbows and train every day and push our bodies to the limit and our minds to the limit, and do it with people that have an outside the box background, because we deal with so many football people in that pre-draft. It's just fucking football. Like you're like, oh wait, this guy was a Navy SEAL, or this guy was a gold medal wrestler or a national champion boxer. And you're training with guys who have a different set of elite mental skills. For me, that was an unbreakable moment, having to tap in, to a deeper understanding of what hard work is and what a true breaking point is. And obviously I never reached it because I'm not broken yet.
Right.
And for all the days that I thought I wouldn't be able to get up, or for all the workouts I didn't want to get off that turf after the workout, I'd lay there for an hour and feel bad for myself. I was better for it, and I am today. So for that, I thank you, Jay, and for all the folks there at Unbreakable that were and still are a part of my life. And at times they've been bigger than they are in others. But you're massive in my story.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the 2 missing discs that I have because of you. So thank you also for that.
Yeah, thanks for playing. Thanks for playing with me every day.
So here's the crazy part. So Kyle and I we'd wrestle, we'd do hand fighting, we'd do this. We basically at Unbreakable with this mixed martial arts program that I came up with years ago with Randy Couture. We teach violence. You're playing a violent sport, but we also teach people how to push their breaking point so everything else is easier. But what Kyle was different, and remember, Kyle only played, like you said, 5 college games at Oregon. Chip Kelly is his coach. I remember this Senior Bowl that you're talking about. And what I loved about Kyle, and I always try and, I'm honest with everybody. And I would always tell these head coaches and GMs, hey, man, this is who you fucking want protecting your quarterback. This is the attitude you want. You don't want some fucking, some Daisy in there who's sitting there letting his quarterback get his ass kicked. This is who you want. I'll never forget, we're at the Senior Bowl, right? And I think you were kind of going through some anxiety of just being there. It's such a huge stage. And I thought
I had the flu, but I was throwing up for 3 days just from anxiety. I mean, if that's what we're I was sick, but it was like, I didn't have the flu. I didn't have mono, but I couldn't keep food down. I couldn't sleep. I was going through it. That's another, a moment for me where it was like my back was against the fire. You know what I'm saying? Like I was on the cliff and there was the volcano behind me, and it's either you fight your way out of this thing or you just end up molten. And I'm glad that I fought,
Yeah. So you're going through it, and so funny because even before I knew how to communicate the stuff, and that's why I think the mental health stuff, my gift is like, God bless me with the ability to communicate. So our thing is to be able to give it words. That's some of the things you and I have trained physically, but you and I get each other. We could talk about it. So I understood what you're going through. But I remember telling you one day, right, when you got back out there, hey, just fucking be you. Just do you and let me do the other part of it. And I'm on the sideline talking to Mike Tomlin, Howie
You were
Roseman,
working, buddy.
right,
You were
and
working.
3 other coaches. And I'm saying the same thing. I'm like, guys, he's the nastiest motherfucker you'll ever see.
I almost had to say, hey, Jay, you're laying it on a little thick. I'm in the individual drills, and I can hear Glazer over there yelling at Mike Tomlin like, this is the baddest motherfucker you've ever seen.
Which you are.
He broke my leg. He broke my arm.
But as I say that, Kyle freaking pancakes the D tackle, pancakes a linebacker, runs over a safety, and the linebacker or safety, whoever gets up and says to you, what the fuck? And you go, you're not on my fucking team. And I turned around and Tomlin and Howie Roseman, and I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
What'd I tell you? It was perfect timing.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin, that would have been a fun guy to play for. Howie Roseman, obviously, maybe I would have had some rings. I would have got to play next to Lane Johnson. That would have been cool, but I have no regrets. All these funny stories we tell about training and getting in the ear of these guys in the industry, it's like, it all led to me going to Chicago, and I'm a Chicago dude, and I got like so much love for that city, and I was so glad I got to go there. I don't have a Super Bowl ring, but what I have is like truly priceless. You know what I'm saying?
No, really. And just the journey itself, man. And people really don't know your journey. People don't know that you were the number one, left-handed pitching prospect in America.
I was one of them. There was a lot of guys who could throw pretty well, but I was
how fast were you throwing?
On a good day, I would be like 96, maybe 97.
Okay. So 97 miles per hour. I mean, he looks like a bad guy from Taken already. And he's
I had hair back then. I was like a boyish.
You didn't have hair. It doesn't matter.
I was like a boy band.
6'7" on a mound throwing 97 miles per hour. People don't realize this about you. Also, it's ridiculous what your journey is.
Yeah, it was fun. And I mean, I always say I don't have regrets, but like if I were to have regrets, it would be like I would have loved to have seen the alternate universe the parallel universe where I got to play baseball. Because obviously I went to Florida State to play baseball. I got in some trouble off the field, as a lot of 19, 18-year-olds do. And my route ended up, taking me to South Orange County, California, where I cleaned up my act a bit with the help of a lot of good folks at Saddleback College. Mark McElroy deserves a shout out there, our head coach. He's, big at Saddleback Church and getting guys into recovery. And he was the head coach for a very long time there. He brought in military vets, and he brought in people that were getting out of the penal system. And he was a good dude, but he knew you could run that 9 route. So he was like, come on out and play for my team. And I fit in great there. And when I got to Oregon, Chip Kelly asked me 2 questions. He goes, do you love football? I said, yeah. He goes, are you going to go to class? I said, yes. And he was like, come play for us. And we won a lot of football games there, and I learned a lot. But it paled in comparison to the learning process of when I got to Chicago, obviously. And Aaron Cromer was my offensive line coach, and he's got one of his offensive linemen, Jari Evans, is up for the Hall of Fame. That was one of the guys that he had me study early in my career. So I had great guys to learn from, including yourself, Jay, and all the people that you put around us. It was really an awesome experience.
Appreciate it, brother. But so again, what you need, this is what we need, right? Your dad, for me, he's family. Like and that's the thing too. Like people think your dad's so square and this and that. Your dad is you. He's me. He is that. He's the original man. We got to try and keep that beast in the box. That
people don't get it, and
it's a daily fucking battle. People.
Well, I mean, his beast is different. I mean, his beast he was like a heavyweight champion boxer. Right. He was. You think about the tenacity that a guy like J.J. Watt played with, and he could play defensive end, but he could also play defensive tackle. Shit, my dad could play nose tackle. He'd line up
and your dad
at zero
fucking
and play.
Charleston. He's not a Southern California.
And he was an all-pro at each of those. And as you know, you are a product of where you've been and who you are. And my dad was, he had some spots that didn't go as easily as most kids should have experienced, and it made him a tough dude, and he's such a sweetheart now. So I'm glad people know him as a sweetheart, because that's who he really is at his core. But like you said, that beast is in there.
Yeah.
And it is with all of us.
That you could be both, right? So I talk about this a lot. And look, when I am, I think a lot of us kind of talk about, well, you have this thing that sits inside you, and I don't know if it's an angry thing. It's whatever we call this little monster. And it's like a daily battle to keep it down inside and not let it, run rampant on society. It is an everyday type of thing. And I don't think, not everybody's going to understand how hard that is for a lot of us, but it's probably one of the coolest things that we get to do, that you and I, and how we get to talk about these things, that we get to battle things that people don't really see or can understand. And it does make us stronger.
Well, I truly believe it's what makes us different. It's what makes us special. I mean, like in a locker room of, when you go to training camp, there's 90 guys, you meet 89 other dudes. You're not going to meet probably one other guy that's like you. And everybody's got their history. Everybody's got their family. Everybody's got their skill set and their personality. And it's wild. I mean, I challenge you to try to get to know all the guys on your favorite team better, like outside of just this guy's a good route runner, because they're all human beings. And it's, you get to see the superstars always covered, but there's, like I said, there's 89 other dudes on that training camp roster that you don't know. And they're all going through something. I'm not special. And I'm human, so that makes I'm sensitive. I've got emotions. I've got thoughts. I've got opinions. And what you see is just me trying to articulate that. And, I do my best. And at times you talk about that beast. When I'm on the football field, I articulate it a little bit differently than most others. And that's what makes me special, at least in that business. And now I get to talk about football, and I talk about it passionately. And I think people see that, and it's authentic, and I think people appreciate that shit.
So when you say how you deal with the beast when you're on the field, how do you deal with when you're off the field? I struggle when I'm not able to spar with my guys, and fuck, COVID crushed me when Randy Couture moved away and Jay Huron moved away, and all of a sudden I wasn't able to have that outlet. How do you deal with that, off the field, especially after your career ended?
It's all about having healthy habits. I mean, we all have bad habits that are fun, pleasure habits. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I like to eat a ton, not like way past dinner and that kind of stuff, and stay up late. But I mean, for me, it's the simple things like taking pride in what I do, and truly, I chose something. I'm lucky enough to choose something for work that I enjoy to do. So I pour myself into work, and I truly reap the benefits of enjoying it. And when I walk out of the building after work, I take pride in it. And, so that's a big part of it. And obviously my family's the number one thing, but, for a simple answer, I would say a routine at nighttime. I could play video games with my buddies. You know what I mean? We get on, we get on a little chat room on here and we all play Madden, and we take turns playing each other, and we all talk shit. It's nice to have that locker room environment. At the end of the day, you need to let off steam, and whether it's sarcastically, whether it's comedically, or you want to be mean to somebody, be mean to one of your buddies in a private, forum, or be open, because they'll say, "Hey, why are you riding the salty seas tonight, bro? What do we need to talk about?" That's my version of that. And there are nights where I go in there and my friends don't fucking want to hear from me because I'm in a shit mood. Or there's nights where we can't stop laughing. And either way, I benefit from having a group of people that I can associate with, whether I don't see them in person or not. I get to go and play video games with them, and it's part of my routine.
And look, Kyle and I have fought it out like crazy. Again, he's lived with me for several different years. We fought it out. One night you're like, "I'm fucking leaving," right? I threw keys at you that day. You're like, "I'm fucking out of here." But
I've been that guy too. And I've been that guy that guy to my older brother in the past year. I've been that guy with my dad a number of times. But these are the tribal members, bro.
That's exactly right.
These are my people. And you feel comfortable around somebody. It's funny, the more comfortable you feel around somebody, the more prone you are to have, I'll call it, for lack of a better term, in my case, an outburst. I get emotional. You know what I'm saying? But it's also sometimes the people you don't know at all. It's never it's never people you kind of know. It's people you love or people you just hate.
I think the people you love, I know, no matter how much you and I fight it out, you're going to come back. You're going to be there. It's not a death sentence. And that's what a real bond is. That's what a real relationship is. Your dad and I have fought it out a million times. That's what is so special, when you can lean into your people and know, okay, I could have these mental health issues or these issues, and know no matter what, they're still going to be there for me. That's our equity.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what friendship is, right? I mean, it's faith. It's having faith in one another.
And by the way, we got to tell you, probably the funniest story that's ever happened. I was in your gym, and this is before I owned Unbreakable, is when we were trained together. His dad, Howie, comes in there, and he's like fucking Honey Boo Boo's mom, right? He's like, a dance mom, and he's butting into our drills over and over and over. And finally I show Howie, I go, "Howie, this is why we're doing this." Whap! I fucking hit his forearm with a hammer fist. And I don't know how often you have seen that side of Howie, but the kid who grew up outside of Boston or in Boston fucking goes, "Why would you do that?" Grabs a key, puts it in between his fingers, and tries to punch me in the eye.
I don't know if he tried to punch you in the eye, because I would trust that if he did try, he would have probably succeeded. So I would say he hit you with a pump fake. You know what I'm saying? Just to gauge a reaction.
I've never asked you what your reaction was when you saw that.
I think that was just the guy who was not used to getting touched, even as a defensive lineman. Some fighters are so good, they're just not used to getting touched. You touched him. He wasn't expecting to get touched, and that was his response.
You were just sitting over
there. Did you just fucking touch me, man?
It was one of the all-time fucking moments. I think it's my favorite gym moment. Somebody just asked me a question.
See, he goes for the weapon. I would have just gone for the maul. I would have gone bare.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. Oh, my God.
Brock Lesnar, first 4 seconds of a round. That's where I would have gone, just sprinting.
So, look, again, like I said, bonds you and I is we've both been through a lot. And you've been through a lot on your journey. You said you were kicked out of Florida State and went from baseball to football and junior college. Talk about that journey a little bit, what you're comfortable talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I was like a two-sport All-American in football and baseball in high school. And I pitched and I played first base. I could hit and throw. Life was really good for me in high school. It was really good, but I had the blessing of being able to go to a school that was so safe that there was, you could be yourself, and you didn't have to worry about being bullied and that kind of thing. And I have great friends from there. It's a great place, but at the same time, I didn't have the foresight of thinking, well, eventually I'm going to have to go somewhere else and take my talents elsewhere. And am I ready for that? And, I wasn't. And that falls squarely on my shoulders. So when I went to Florida State, I just didn't have a good routine. I didn't have structure. I had an apartment. I had a little bit of money in my pocket, for monthly spending, and a lot of it went towards beer. And, not a lot of my time was allotted towards, what was important, what got me there, which was school and baseball. And I made a ton of friends who I'm still great friends with today. I don't know if I would rely on those guys like I would some of the other ones you and I have discussed, but they're a damn good time. I will tell you that.
Right.
And I was playing baseball and I was cramping up every day because I was probably out, having a good time the night before. And I couldn't even maintain my level of performance in the summer. And then once the fall rolled around and football season started, it was my first time not playing football. So I'm out there and I'm at practice, taking batting practice, and I can hear the whistles and the helmets right on the other side of that left field wall at Florida State. And part of me missed it. And, I was not fully invested in what I was doing, obviously. I ended up going home for the holidays and I had a DUI, which was, in retrospect, it was a blessing because I had that DUI and I had an opportunity to just restart, press restart of the whole thing. And a lot of kids wouldn't have that opportunity. And for that, I'm grateful to my parents and, my whole support system, my siblings and everybody. But, I went out west and I did some time, to get right and, try to like detoxify myself mentally and spiritually, physically. And, I started going to school and I started working a job at Jack Surfboards, on the Newport Peninsula. I was folding t-shirts and, selling sex wax to surfers. And I got fired for smoking cigarettes outside on break. I was on crutches at the time because I tore my meniscus at the skate park. I was on my sector 9. I tore my meniscus. It was the first real injury I had. I had to get surgery. That was awful. I called my dad and I was like, I tore my knee. What were you doing? I was skateboarding. Okay. So, I go see the Clippers doctor or whatever, and I get my knee done. And so I get fired in a 3-week span. I get fired from the job while smoking cigarettes on crutches. And then I enroll at Saddleback College and I start football camp 4 weeks after a scope. And I remember I haven't played football in 2 years now, 3 years now, right? 2008 was the last year I played, was in high school. And then I went to Florida State and then I took a year off and now it's been an off season. So now I come back. And I'm like, fuck, I don't even know if I remember how to play football. I showed up, I had cleats and some compression shorts, and that was it. I was like, if anything, I'm going to impress motherfuckers with being big and fast. And, I played defense and I didn't go the right way and I ended up on the bench. I was just backup defensive end, for Steve Crapo, who is the head coach now, who I'm buddies with, but he always gives me shit. He was like, you were a liability, bro. I wasn't going to put you out there. The head coach at the time, Mark McElroy, was the offensive coordinator. And he let Steve Crapo have his fun with me his first year. But the second year, he said, you're moving to offensive tackle because it's just going to work. All right. And he put me at tackle and it was like, boom, immediately. It was like, oh, football. Okay. And we put up 56 a game. Our right tackle went to Florida State, Menelik Watson, who you know.
Yep.
And I ended up going to Oregon. And when I got to Oregon, I rolled my ankle in camp and I was never really 100%. I lost out to a really good young tackle at left tackle. So now I'm back up again and I only have 1 year eligibility there. So I'm thinking to myself, fuck, I gotta, make something happen. I gotta either switch to defensive line or go to tight end, try to make myself available to play somehow so I can get in the league. And at that point, I didn't even know if I could play in the league. You know what I mean? I just didn't know at the time. And so the year goes on and Manu Gregg, our guard, got rolled up and he had a nasty lower leg injury. So we're getting ready to play USC. And I walk into Steve Greatwood's office, the offensive line coach, and I said, Coach, I'm playing next week. And he said, what are you playing? And I said, I'm playing guard. I'm starting next week. And he was like, the fuck you're not. You haven't even been in a 3 points, you haven't been a guard. You've been a tackle the whole, and you're not even good enough to be a tackle. You know what I mean? Essentially. And Steve Greatwood's a great guy and a great coach, but he was essentially like, you fucked off to this point. You think I'm going to, and I told all the guys, it was all the guys, and I've played with a few of them since in the league, and we all met at this one house on Van Dunn. That we would all meet at and just be meatheads. They had like 6 lazy boys in the garage and we'd sit around and talk shop. You know what I mean? We thought we were real football masterminds. And I told him that night, and they were great guys. I told him, I said, I'm going to like when we line up 5 wide, pregame, the offensive line goes and they run right, they run left, they run straight, but it's 5 guys. It's the first group, and then it's the second group, and then it's the third group. So I said, I'm lining up at that guard spot. Because, if you don't agree with it, speak now or forever hold your peace, essentially.
That's ballsy.
And the guys are like, fuck it, dude. Like, try it. Like, see what happens. And I lined up there, and Greatwood looked at me, and I looked at Greatwood, and he was pissed, but he was also like, and he saw that he was like, somebody else hop in there. You know what I mean? Like, get a guard in there. And none of the guys moved. And I stayed at guard that week, and we played, and our offensive line played so well that week. And Kenyon Barner broke the rushing record against USC, and we ran them out of the Coliseum. It was my first start in college, really. It was the same stadium my dad got to play in. It was a special day. And then obviously the Senior Bowl invite came, and ended up winning the Fiesta Bowl against Kansas State. We lost that year. We should have probably had a run at the national championship. We lost to Stanford. They were our Achilles heel. They were the out physical you, line up and play a mano-a-mano type team. We were so athletic. We were a mano-a-mano group, but they were just built the whole way through like that.
So again, the whole story started with something where you fucked up and you had to overcome it.
Yeah.
Right. And I always tell people, man, the greatest things that I've done, I never brag about successes. I only brag about scars. I only brag about shit that I've gone through and gotten over. At what point did you, when you got to, I don't know if it was at the Senior Bowl or in college or football, and how often do you go back and you say to yourself, man, look what I fucking overcame to get to where I am?
There's been so much that has been there to help me, Glaze. So at times I lose sight of the fact that I am somebody that has overcome some stuff and, put my foot in the ground, so to speak. In the offensive line world, we say you got to put your foot in the ground eventually. And that's when you're sitting on a bull rush. Yeah. When Khalil Mack runs at you from 5 yards away and puts his head in your chest, you got to put your foot in the ground eventually, or you're going to be on his highlight tape. So in life, the same thing happens. I mean, it's not so much about a bunch of big things that happened. It's just so many little things that I did to put myself behind the 8 ball. As it's knowing that you can always recover. The best players in football are the guys who make mistakes, but they recover. That's really what I think. I mean, I saw Deron Bland the other day give up a bunch of big catches, and then he goes out and gets an interception. Right. So that's kind of a microcosm for life. And that's really, I mean, they're going to run out of, your enemies will run out of ammo eventually. You just keep fucking going. Like, my dad used to tell me when I was playing, I don't care if the sky's falling around you, you just keep coming. Right. And that never served me, wrong.
It is cool for the two of us also to have been able to lean into the same guy for all these years. And, I kind of go, whenever I have my closest people on these podcasts, my attention span goes all over the place. I have a hard time always interviewing.
But it's like when we hang out.
Right? Yeah, it's just, right. But I have a hard time interviewing family. But the coolest thing for me with our family, right? Again, you helped raise Sammy. I adopted my son, Sammy, and I didn't know what I was doing. I became an instant dad. And I turned to your dad on how to be a dad. Your dad, right, is a dad because of what he's had to go through for him, with you, with Chris, with Howie Jr., with all that stuff. And it's a level of relationship that, man, it's just beautiful. It's just incredible, man. I'm just proud to have you as a brother, man. It's just,
we're really lucky to have, we're lucky to have each other, and we're even luckier to know my dad and my mom.
No doubt.
Because, what people fail to realize is that so many people do, really love my dad and enjoy my dad and his personality and his wit. and his heart, and he cares a great deal. And you have to understand the impact that my mom has on that guy.
Oh yeah.
Like it's a nonstop beam of sunshine into his life. Like, he is as lucky as any of us.
That's what when I got
we're lucky
Rosie
to have
too,
him, and he's supremely lucky to have her.
And when I got with Rosie, I said, hey, I kind of want the relationship that Howie and Diane have. I said, I want the same thing. This is what I want. I want that unbridled support no matter what. And that's no matter how much whatever it is, I just kind of know that you're always there. And I will always
no matter how me I am, I need to know that you got me.
And I got to probably be reminded of a billion times. And, it's just going to be a constant thing. All right. It's just never changing. There's much as we want to try and, get better at that situation. I still do, but I always lean to your mom and dad of, babe, this is what I want. This is exactly what I want. So I love that she gets to hang out with them now also. And no, listen, hey, this is just how I'm going to be for the rest of my life.
Yes. And there's some days where I just can't match that energy that my mom has. Yeah. And I'm like, and I see why dad has to take a lot of naps, because he's like, my mom has this energy that's just unbelievable. It's like, if you go hang out with her during the Super Bowl week, I mean, you're going to go to 4 concerts. You're going to meet all the coolest people. Like, people think Donna Kelsey has a cool gig. My mom has had that gig for like 40 years now.
Yes, no doubt.
I mean, she was there when the Raiders won the Super Bowl when they were in Los Angeles. She's been to all the Super Bowls. I've heard all the Yelp reviews from all the locations.
Front row of every concert you're at every Super Bowl. Yes.
She's the last one out the door at the Drake show. You know what I mean? Like, with security. My mom's a lot of fun. If you've ever crossed paths with her, you would definitely know what I'm talking about. She's a lot of fun.
Tell me the one thing that you, outside of football, that you kind of look back, maybe, we dream about, say, I kind of wish I did this in life.
Outside of football, what I would have wanted to do. When I was younger, there weren't a lot of people that said you should be this when you get older. It was always, are you going to play football? But the one guy who gave me an idea for a job outside of football was my dad. And I remember being like 7, and he was like, Kyle, you really like talking to people. You're really good at hanging out with people. People enjoy hanging out with you. He goes, and you like being outside. He goes, you know what you should do? You should be a park ranger. And the more I think about it, I'm like, that seems like the best job in the world.
I think you're going to say you should host an outdoor TV show. I never saw a park ranger coming.
Like, if you get an opportunity to go and experience the great outdoors. We're lucky enough to go to Montana every summer for our entire lives, and there's a lot of people who don't get to experience that part of the world. But being a park ranger, like, you go up to Glacier National Park, you get to see going to the Sun Road, and you see parts of the map that people don't get to see when you're the park ranger. You get access to things that people don't get access to. Imagine riding out at night when the park's closed with the lights on and just taking in the sights and sounds. I bet it's an awesome gig.
Hey, you and I used to also talk. I started a foundation called MVP, Emerging Vets and Players, where I put together, former combat vets with ex NFL players, fighters. It's because when you lose your locker room, it's hard, and that transition is really difficult for a lot of people. And you and I have talked about it for years and years and years. And, you had that, you came out of, obviously you went from transition from baseball, then to football, then out of that into broadcasting. Has it gotten easier as the years have gone by? Does that transition ever go from, okay, it's transitioned, now it's kind of done, now I'm just in this outside world? Or do you still, look at it, it's like, man, I'm still transitioning? We're
always transitioning, right? I mean, people ask me how retirement is because they view me as a football player. And I'm like, we're never really retired, right? I mean, I know old guys who are volunteer firemen or drug testers for the NFL. It's their only gig. Nobody's ever really retired. And for me, it's always changing. Like, I started this studio gig a few years ago at CBS Sports, and I love it. I get to do pregame there, and it's a lot of fun. I get to be myself. Like like the advice you gave me at the Senior Bowl, be yourself. And that advice has carried me through. It's the same advice my dad gives me. And, just be yourself. And I get to do that. And now I'm doing Greenlight Podcast on Monday. So it's a live show with my brother, and that's been a transition. It's like, it's not all, rainbows and sunshine. So we've had to learn how to work with one another and put our egos aside at times and understand that also people enjoy watching the egos kind of butt heads a little bit. Like particularly when we talk about Aaron Rodgers, and we have different thoughts about the whole Aaron Rodgers thing. But like last week, one of our members didn't feel well. I had to fill in on a segment on the NFL Today, which is something I've never done before, and they told me during the show, so I had to go across the hallway and do something extra, and that's a transition. I'd love to eventually call games, and that would be something that I think would lend to my personality, and you pair with the right person, and you just have fun and talk about what you see, man. And I just remember growing up listening to those classic calls, and it was just dudes up there calling what they see. And the guys who I really enjoy now, Mark Sanchez being one of them, doesn't get enough love over there at Fox. He does a fabulous job. And I know Mark outside of the field or off the field. He lived with me in Chicago. The guy you hear in the booth is the guy you'd hang out with at a bar on Friday. So those are the guys you want to listen to. I'd love to be like that. But I know how hard it is, man. You got to know everybody, everything, every week. So the studio gig I'm comfortable with right now.
And I think that, you find that locker room, that was huge. I think a lot of guys, again, and we talk about this, they finish up and they don't know what to do. They feel like, man, I got to race out and find that next thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of guys kind of get in trouble of and I try and tell guys all the time, listen, dude, you spilt that blood. You laid that sweat. You earned that cash. Chill out. Just enjoy life. It's so hard. It's so hard for athletes to teach themselves how to exhale, but that's okay to exhale.
It's really important, though, Jay, to also understand that I truly understand that advice is coming from a good place. Like you earned it. Take some time. But at the same time, what we have relied on as athletes is that structure that everyday regimen. And when you lose that, to your point of losing the locker room, along with the locker room, you're losing that 9 a.m. lift Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You're losing that walkthrough that you so enjoy that prepares you for the chess match to come on Sunday. Those things go by the wayside. And you're left staring your life in the face saying, what have I done outside of ball to prepare myself for this? I would urge guys to take time, but I would also urge guys to find a routine that they can stick to during that lull in action in their life. Because once you get away from it, if that car sits in the garage for too long, the wires get rusted, the battery dies. It's going to be a lot harder to get that car back on the road, whether it's physically or just in life when you do want to get that job.
I agree. We have to have that structure, no doubt. And it's a great advice also. Like, make sure the moment you're done, you figure out something else to do, some other structure where we have a schedule. Because the first time also in your life, no one's telling you where to go, when to go, who to sit with, who to eat with, who to train with, who to practice with. And the world is a scary fucking place. Yeah. It's very scary, especially when you don't have your teammates walking this walk with you. I just, my point to them also, and that's just a great thing, of don't jump out and find the wrong thing. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I got to find something, so I'm just going to.
Don't latch on to the first thing humming out.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Exactly right. And that's why I say, man, just afford yourself some of that grace, because you put so much work in to allow yourself to enjoy it. We're just not ingrained to allow ourselves to enjoy it.
And there's people waiting for you to get off of the Ferris. They've been watching you ride that Ferris wheel for a long time. And people have come out in droves. And a lot of people left when you were done playing. But then there's people that are waiting to get something from you or ask something of you when you're done, because he's got time now. Yeah. So like you said, don't latch onto everything. Trust your OGs as it were, as it is.
All right. Last question. Ask everybody this. Give me and you may have already said it, but give me your unbreakable moment, the thing that should have broken you, but didn't. And as a result, you came through the other side of that tunnel stronger for the rest of your life. That's your currency forever.
Man, there's so much, Glaze. It's so tough to put my finger on one thing. I would probably say just getting my life back together after getting in trouble at Florida State. I mean, I had my life in a handbasket there at Florida State. It was all there for me, and I threw it away. Like we've seen so many times. And how many great athletes do we grow up around? You say, you should have seen this guy, Tommy Mancino from fucking New Hampshire. He was the best running back ever. Or, I played with a number of guys in junior college who could have played in the NFL and they fucked something up and they never got back on their feet. And as a result of that, I don't know those guys anymore. Luckily for me, I was able to just stick it through and trust the process and have faith in myself and have faith in, just that you show up every day and you put your best foot forward and good things are going to happen. I mean, the more good decisions you make, the less you have to worry about when you put your head on the pillow at night. You know what I'm saying?
Love it, dude. Man, well, look, folks, you know him as an all-pro offensive lineman. I know him as my son's Manny, Kyle Long, and my brother and my nephew, my family member. And man, I just, like I said, I can't honor our relationship enough, brother. As much as I've helped you with along the way, just knowing I have a beast like you who has my back no matter what, that goes further than anything.
My guy, I love you, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me, brother.